-52. That is exactly what the thermometer shows when I open my eyes at 6 in the morning in the middle of the tundra. Around me are reindeer hides. Beneath me are reindeer hides. Above me are reindeer hides. I am lying inside a cocoon of dead animals, and for the first time in my life this seems absolutely normal to me. Because without this cocoon, I would no longer have opened my eyes. 3 days ago I flew into Salakard, a small city on the very edge of the Arctic Circle, where winter lasts 9 months and summer looks more like a prolonged thaw. From there, a helicopter dropped me off at a Nomads camp, nomads who live in the tundra the same way their ancestors lived 1,000 years ago. Without electricity, without plumbing, without the internet, and, most surprisingly, without complaints. My name is... well, it does not matter what my name is. What matters is that I am a city person who considered the shutting off of hot water in July to be extreme survival. And now I am lying in a chum, listening to the howling wind, and trying to understand how 8 people around me sleep so peacefully, as though beyond the walls of this cone of poles and hides an Arctic hell is not raging. Seriko wakes up first. He is 63 years old. His face is like a topographic map. Every wrinkle is a separate route across the tundra. He throws back the hide in one motion, as if it were a blanket in a hotel, and sits up. No stretching, no yawning. He simply sat up and is already ready, like a soldier who has spent his whole life on the front line. His wife, Nedko, is already fussing around the iron stove in the center of the chum. I did not hear her get up, did not hear her at all. This woman moves through the chum more silently than a cat. The stove is the size of a small suitcase, but it heats the entire space. Inside, pieces of dwarf birch crackle. The smell of smoke mixed with something meaty. Morning in the tundra smells like a barbecue stand in the frost. I try to get up and realize that my legs will not obey me. Not because they are frozen, because I slept on the ground covered with hides, and my city joints have declared a strike. Seriko looks at me and smiles, with his eyes only. His lips do not move. I have already understood that the Nomads economize on facial expressions the same way they economize on everything else. Not a single unnecessary movement, not a single unnecessary word. "Get up," he says quietly. One word. That is enough. I crawl out of the sleeping bag I brought with me. The sleeping bag is rated for -30. The manufacturer proudly wrote this on the tag. The Nomads looked at my sleeping bag with the same expression you would give someone who showed up to Everest in sneakers. So on top of my sleeping bag, they placed 2 reindeer hides. And only then did they nod, as if to say, "Now, maybe, you will not die." The chum. Let me tell you about the chum. It is not a tent. It is an engineering structure that is more than 1,000 years old. 26 poles of larch, each 6 to 7 meters long. They are set up in a cone and covered with nucs. A nuc is a panel made of sewn reindeer hides. A winter chum is covered with 2 layers of nucs. The inner one with the fur facing inward, the outer one with the fur facing outward. Between them is an air gap, the same principle as in a thermos, only the thermos is made of reindeer. One chum requires approximately 70 reindeer hides. 70. I will repeat that number because it astounded me. Each hide is processed by hand. Each is sewn to its neighbor with sinews from the same reindeer. Not a single synthetic thread, not a single factory seam. And this chum, assembled from sticks and hides, retains heat better than my insulated down jacket that cost $500. Nedko hands me a mug. Tea. But not the tea you are imagining. This is brick tea brewed with reindeer milk and salt. It tastes as if someone dropped a bouillon cube into a teapot. My stomach sends an alarm signal to my brain. But my hands have already wrapped around the hot mug, and the warmth coming from it is more important than any taste. I drink. And you know what? By the third sip, I am starting to like it. Beyond the walls of the chum, dawn is breaking. Although the word dawn does not quite fit here. It is more of a transition from total darkness to gray gloom. December, polar night. The sun will not appear at all. The entire day will be this gray haze, as if someone forgot to turn off the twilight. Sirocco goes out first. I get dressed. This takes 15 minutes. Thermal underwear, fleece pullover, down vest, jacket, pants, 2 pairs of socks, boots, hat, scarf, gloves, mittens over the gloves. I look like a small child whose mother bundled him up for a walk. I move roughly the same way. Sirocco is dressed in a militsa. It is a long shirt made of reindeer hide with the fur facing inward. Over it is a sovik, another coat with the fur facing outward. On his feet are kisi, boots made of kamus, which is the hide from a reindeer's legs. On his head is the hood of the militsa, trimmed with Arctic fox fur. He got dressed in 3 minutes, without zippers, without snaps, without Velcro. He simply climbed into one hide, then into another, and he stands in the frost as though it were +20. I step out of the chum and the air strikes me in the face, not figuratively, literally. -52 is not cold, it is aggression. The air scorches my nostrils. My eyelashes stick together with frost within 10 seconds. I inhale and feel the cold scratching my lungs from the inside, like sandpaper on the bronchi. Sirocco breathes evenly. His nostrils do not twitch. His eyes do not water. He stands and looks at the horizon where the reindeer herd darkens against the snow. 320 head. This is his pension fund, his bank account, his supermarket, and his wardrobe. All in one. Only on 4 legs and with antlers. "Let us go," he says. And we go. More precisely, he goes. I try not to fall behind. The snow under his kisi barely crunches. Under my boots, it howls like a wounded animal. Every step I take echoes across the entire tundra. If reindeer could laugh, they would already be rolling in the snow. His son Cassava walks beside him. He is 34. He is taciturn even by Nanette's standards, and that is a serious achievement. In 2 days, I heard exactly 11 words from him. 4 of them were addressed to the dogs. The herd grazes 3 kilometers from the chum. 3 kilometers across flat tundra is roughly 40 minutes for me and 20 for them. They walk at an even pace, neither fast nor slow. The perfect rhythm at which the body expends a minimum of energy. I try to match this rhythm and cannot. I either fall behind or rush ahead. My legs do not know this dance. Along the way, Sirocco stops, bends down, picks up a piece of something from the ground, shows it to me. It is reindeer droppings. He crumbles it between his fingers and sniffs, then nods. I do not ask what he learned. I have already understood that every such gesture contains information I could not decipher in 10 years. The herd appears out of the gray gloom like a vision. 320 reindeer standing on the snow. They paw at the ground, scraping away the snow to reach the lichen. The sound of hooves on frozen earth resembles hundreds of tiny hammers. And there is another sound I did not expect. Clicking. Reindeer click when they walk. It is the tendons in their legs that make this sound. 320 reindeer clicking simultaneously, and the tundra sounds like a room full of people nervously clicking pens. Cassava circles the herd from the left side. Sirocco stands on the right. They look at the reindeer the way a doctor looks at an X-ray. They see what is hidden from an ordinary gaze. This one is limping. That one's coat is dull. This cow is pregnant. They read the herd like a book they have reread 1,000 times. That one, Sirako says quietly and points with his chin. I look in that direction. I see a reindeer. It looks like all the others. 4 legs, antlers, brown hide. What is special about it? Cassava nods. He too sees what I cannot. Sirako explains. This bull is old. Its teeth are worn down. It will not survive the winter. If it dies on its own, the meat will be lost. Wolves will find it first. So it is better to slaughter it now. This is not cruelty. This is the arithmetic of survival. Cassava takes out a tinsian, a lasso made of a leather strap 25 meters long. At the end is a bone ring, through which the strap slides like silk. I have seen cowboys in movies throw lassos. It looks impressive. What Cassava does looks impossible. He spins the loop above his head, 2 rotations, a throw. The tinsian flies in an arc, as if alive, and lands precisely on the antlers of the right reindeer. Out of 320, from a distance of 15 meters, in the gray half-darkness of the polar night. I could not hit a cow from 3 meters in full light. The reindeer jerks. Cassava digs his feet into the snow. His body leans back at an angle that defies gravity. The bull weighs about 180 kilograms. Cassava weighs half as much. But he holds. The strap cuts into his mittens. The reindeer shakes its head. Cassava does not move. Sirako approaches from the side, quickly, quietly. In his hand is a knife. Not a hunting cleaver from a store, but a thin Nenet's knife with a bone handle. The blade is about 15 centimeters long. It gleams even in this dim light. One movement, precise as a surgeon's incision. The knife enters the base of the skull. The reindeer drops instantly, without a sound, without agony. Sirako knows the anatomy of a reindeer better than I know the layout of rooms in my apartment. He hit exactly where he needed to. Death came in a second. Silence. The herd did not even scatter. A few reindeer raised their heads, looked, and went back to the lichen. They had seen this before, many times. I stand and look at the dead reindeer. Steam rises from its body. The blood on the snow looks unnaturally bright against this entire gray world. Red on white, as if someone spilled paint on a clean canvas. And this is where what I came here for begins. Sirako kneels beside the reindeer. Cassava stands on the other side. They do not talk. There is no need. Each knows his role. This is choreography refined over generations. The first incision runs along the belly, from the sternum to the pelvis, a straight line as if drawn with a ruler. The knife in Sirako's hands moves with such confidence that it seems to me he could do this with his eyes closed. The hide parts. Beneath it is a layer of fat, white and dense. Then muscles, dark red, steaming in the frost. Steam rises from the carcass like from a hot soup. Sirako plunges his hands inside, without gloves, bare hands into the carcass of a reindeer at -52. I do not immediately understand why. Then it dawns on me. Inside the carcass it is +38. This is the warmest place within a radius of several kilometers. His hands warm up in the reindeer's blood. This is not barbarism. This is survival in its purest form. He removes the liver, dark, glistening, the size of a large book. He places it on the hide, then the heart, then the kidneys. Each organ is extracted separately, carefully, with respect. Nothing is torn, nothing is cut unnecessarily. And then Sirako does something I was not prepared for. He cuts off a piece of liver, thin, like carpaccio in an Italian restaurant. He puts it in his mouth and chews. Raw, warm, straight from the reindeer. Cassava does the same. Then Serico cuts a piece and holds it out to me. I look at this piece of liver. It is steaming. There is blood on it. It is raw. My brain screams in every available language that this is wrong. My stomach prepares for evacuation. But 20 eyes are watching me, not with challenge, with interest, like watching a child trying new food for the first time. I take the piece. I put it in my mouth. I chew. The first second is shock. The texture is soft, almost creamy. The taste. The taste is like, I do not know what it is like. It is unlike anything in my experience. A metallic tang of blood, then something sweetish, then warmth. Real warmth that comes from within, as if someone switched on a heater in my stomach. Serico nods, approvingly. I have passed some invisible test, not a test of courage, a test of willingness to accept their world as it is. Later I learned that raw reindeer liver is not savagery or exotica. It is a vitamin bomb. It contains so much vitamin C that it replaces a kilogram of oranges. In the tundra, where fruit does not grow, this is the only way not to get scurvy. The Nenets do not know the word vitamin, but they know that without fresh liver in winter, people get sick. 1,000 years of empirical observation instead of a laboratory. The butchering continues. Serico removes the hide. This is a separate art. The knife goes between the hide and the muscles, and the hide separates like a wrapper from a candy. Evenly, in one piece, without a single hole. This hide will later become part of the chum, or clothing, or bedding. Every hole is a loss of heat. Therefore, there can be no holes. Cassava divides the carcass into parts: front legs, hind legs, ribs, spine. He separates each joint with a precise movement of the knife, finding the gap between the bones. Not a single blow, not a single crunch of a broken bone, only the soft glide of the blade along cartilage. A butcher in the city chops meat with a cleaver. Cassava disassembles a reindeer the way a watchmaker disassembles a watch. The sinews are set aside separately, long, white, resembling strings. Nedko will later dry them and split them into thin threads. With these threads, she will sew clothing and the chum. Sinew thread is stronger than nylon. It does not rot in the frost. It does not break under tension. The most perfect thread one can find in the tundra. The bones are placed in a separate pile. From the tubular bones, they will later extract the marrow. It is eaten raw, like butter, spread on flatbread, or simply sucked from the bone. Bone marrow is pure fat, and fat in the Arctic is currency. It is fuel for a body that every minute burns calories to keep from freezing. The reindeer's stomach is not discarded either. Inside, it is semi-digested lichen, a greenish mass that smells like semi-digested lichen. The Nenets add it to certain dishes. I decide that my culinary experiment for today is over. The antlers will go toward knife handles and amulets, the hooves toward glue. The blood is collected in the stomach like a bag. It will be frozen later and added to soup. Nothing, absolutely nothing, is thrown away. The reindeer gives everything, and the Nenets accept everything. I stand nearby and try to be useful. I am entrusted with holding the legs. I hold them. My hands are covered in blood up to the elbows. The blood cools quickly and becomes sticky. In the frost, it freezes on my sleeves, and my sleeves become stiff as cardboard. Sedorko glances at me with a slight smirk. I look like a child who helped in the kitchen for the first time and got smeared from head to toe. The entire butchering takes 40 minutes. 40 minutes, and nothing remains of the reindeer except a blood stain on the snow. Every part is packed, stacked, distributed. Meat on the sled, hide rolled up, organs in a bag, bones in a bundle. The reindeer has been transformed into supplies, into life for 8 people. We return to the chum. Cassava pulls the sled with the meat. I try to help. He looks at me, then at the sled, then back at me, and barely noticeably shakes his head, as if to say, "Do not bother. I would only get in the way." He is right. Smoke from the chum's chimney rises vertically. Not a breeze. In the tundra, this is a rarity. Usually the wind here is such that you walk at an angle, like a drunken sailor on a deck. But today it is still. And this stillness is unsettling, because in the silence you hear everything. The crunch of snow underfoot, the breathing of reindeer in the distance, the beating of my own heart. Nedko meets us at the entrance. She has already seen what we are carrying. Without words, she simply saw. Perhaps by our gait, perhaps by how the sled is loaded. Perhaps she has some sixth sense that develops after 40 years of life in the tundra. She lifts the flap of the chum and steps aside. Cassava carries in the meat. I follow and immediately feel the warmth. Plus 15 inside the chum. After minus 52 outside, this feels like the tropics. Nedko takes the liver. She cuts it into thin strips. Some she sets aside raw on a wooden board. Some she tosses into the pot that is already bubbling on the stove. Broth from reindeer bones. It has been simmering all night. Cloudy, fatty, with a film of grease on the surface that shimmers like a gasoline puddle. The smell is so thick it seems you could chew it. Lunch in the chum is not a meal. It is an event. Everyone sits in a circle on reindeer hides. Sirocco, Nedko, Cassava, his wife Yalia, their 3 children, and I. 8 people in a circle 4 meters in diameter. Our knees nearly touch. And in this closeness there is something right, something ancient. People have always eaten together. This is not merely nourishment. It is confirmation that we are one group. We are one family. We survive together. On the board lie strips of raw meat, stroganina, frozen reindeer meat shaved into thin slices. Each slice curls like a pink petal. Beside it is salt in a wooden dish. That is the entire recipe. Frozen meat plus salt. Arctic sashimi. I take a slice. It is hard as a chip. I put it in my mouth. The meat begins to melt on my tongue. First cold, then flavor. Pure, meaty, without additives. As if someone took the most expensive steak and removed everything superfluous from it. No searing, no spices, no sauce. Just meat. And salt. And it is delicious. Genuinely delicious. The children grab pieces with their hands. Yalia slaps the youngest on the hand. He is 4 years old and is trying to shove a piece into his mouth that is bigger than his fist. He laughs. Yalia does too. Sedorko pretends not to notice, but I see the corners of his lips twitch. Children are children. In the tundra, in the city, on the moon. They are the same everywhere. Cassava eats silently, methodically. A piece of meat, a sip of broth, a piece of meat, a sip of broth. He eats the way he works, without unnecessary movements, without conversation. Food is fuel. The body is a machine. The machine needs to be refueled. It is all simple. I ask Seriko how much meat one person eats over the winter. He thinks. Not because he does not know, because he is converting into my units of measurement. The Nomads do not count in kilograms, they count in reindeer. For one family of 8 people, roughly 25 reindeer are needed for the winter. 25 reindeer is approximately 3,000 kilograms of meat, plus fish, plus bread, which they buy in the settlement once every 2 months. But the foundation of everything is meat. Raw, boiled, dried, frozen. Meat for breakfast, meat for lunch, meat for dinner, meat between meals. My dietitian would faint. But here is a fact. The Nomads virtually never suffer from cardiovascular diseases. They almost never have obesity. Their cholesterol is normal. Because reindeer meat is not pork from a supermarket. It is the meat of an animal that spent its entire life running across the tundra. Not a gram of antibiotics, not a gram of hormones. Pure protein, pure fat, pure energy. After lunch, Nedko takes up the hide, the very one that was removed this morning. She spreads it on the snow, flesh side up, and begins to scrape it with a special scraper. The scraper is a curved iron plate on a wooden handle. Nedko runs it over the hide in rhythmic motions, removing remnants of meat and fat. The movements are identical, again and again, monotonous, hypnotic. I ask how long it takes to process one hide. 3 days, says Nedko. 3 days. Scraping, soaking, stretching, softening, drying. 3 days of manual labor so that a reindeer hide becomes soft as suede. And 70 such hides are needed for one chum. Plus hides for clothing, plus hides for bedding, plus spares. Nedko processes hides all winter, every day, without days off, without vacation. Her hands. I look at her hands and cannot look away. They do not resemble the hands of a 60-year-old woman. They resemble tools. Broad palms, short, strong fingers, skin rough as sandpaper. These hands have erected and dismantled the chum more than 1,000 times, processed thousands of hides, sewn hundreds of malitsas. They know their work the same way my fingers know a keyboard. Only their work keeps people alive. Yalia sits nearby and sews. She is mending a child's malitsa. The needle is an ordinary steel needle, but the thread is a reindeer sinew. Yalia takes a dried sinew, places it on her knee, and splits it with her teeth into thin fibers. Then she twists them into thread, with her teeth and fingers. I watch this process and think about the fact that in my world, people order thread on a marketplace. But here the thread must first be killed, then skinned, then dried, then split with your teeth. The children play outside. I hear their shouts through the walls of the chum. It is -52, and they are playing outdoors. The eldest, he is 9, races dogs on a sled. The middle one, she is 6, is sculpting something out of snow. The youngest, the 4-year-old, simply runs. Without purpose, without reason, simply because he is 4 and he has legs. I go out to watch. The eldest boy, his name is Vengo, handles the sled as though he were born with a kori in his hands. A kori is a long pole used to drive reindeer. 5 meters of thin larch. In Vengo's hands, it looks like an extension of his body. The boy shouts at the dogs, and they turn. He tilts the kori, and the sled rounds a mound. He is 9 years old. At 9, I could not ride a bicycle in a straight line. Seriko stands nearby and watches. He does not interfere. He does not offer hints. He simply watches. This is their school. There are no textbooks. There are no exams. There is no homework. There is the tundra. There are reindeer. There are sleds. And there is endless practice. By the age of 12, Vengo will be herding the flock on his own. By 15, he will be able to slaughter and butcher a reindeer by himself. By 18, he will set up his own chum. I ask Serako whether he wants his grandchildren to live in the city. He is silent for a long time. Then he says one word. No. And falls silent. I wait for him to continue. There is no continuation. No, and that is that. For him,
this is not a topic for discussion. The tundra is not a place you need to flee from. The tundra is home. Evening arrives unnoticed. The gray haze grows slightly darker, then darker still. Then complete darkness sets in. Without flashlights, without streetlights, without screens. The darkness is so thick that I cannot see my own hand at arm's length. Only stars. There are millions of them here. They shine so brightly that it seems you could reach out and touch them. Inside the chum, the stove is burning. The fire casts orange shadows on the walls of hides. The shadows dance. People's faces appear and disappear in this flickering light. Nedko is brewing the evening tea, the very same one with reindeer milk and salt. I already drink it without disgust. Moreover, I am beginning to understand why there is salt in it. Salt replenishes what the body loses in the cold. Milk provides fat. Tea provides warmth. Everything makes sense. It is just that this sense is not written on any packaging. Serako takes out a piece of bone marrow. It is frozen, white, resembling butter. He cuts off a slice and places it on a piece of bread. He hands it to me. I try it. The taste is delicate, creamy, with a slight meaty undertone. This is better than any butter I have ever bought in a store. I am not exaggerating. It really is tastier. The children are already lying under the hides. The youngest fell asleep instantly, as if someone pressed a button. The middle one is still tossing and turning. The eldest is whispering with the dog, which has crept into the chum and curled up at his feet. A dog in the chum is normal. It is also part of the family. It also works. During the day, it guards the herd. At night, it keeps the child warm. Yalia lays out the hides for sleeping. This is a nightly ritual. First, a thick hide with the fur facing down, then a thin one with the fur facing up, then another one on top as a blanket. 3 layers of reindeer hides, and you are in a cocoon that does not care about any frost. I climb into my sleeping bag and pull the hides over the top. I am warm. I am genuinely warm. And I am ashamed of my sleeping bag with its -30 label. Serako is telling something to Cassava, quietly, almost in a whisper. I do not understand Nanette's, but I can hear the rhythm. This is not a conversation. This, it seems, is a story. Perhaps about a hunt. Perhaps about ancestors. Perhaps about the reindeer that was slaughtered in the morning. Serako's voice is even, like the horizon line in the tundra. No surges, no pauses. Just a voice that sounds in the darkness as it sounded 1,000 years ago. I lie there and think. In the morning, I witnessed death. I ate raw liver. I stood in frost that cracks metal. I slept on the ground. I drank tea with salt. And yet, despite all of this, I feel calmer than at home in my apartment with central heating. Perhaps it is because everything here is honest. A reindeer dies so that people may live. People live so that reindeer may graze. Hide becomes a home. Bones become tools. Sinews become thread. Blood becomes soup. The circle closes. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is thrown away.
Nothing is superfluous. In my world, we buy meat in plastic packaging and do not think about the fact that it was once alive. We throw away clothes because they have gone out of fashion. We heat empty rooms. We waste so much that it would be enough for 10 chums. And here, in the tundra, at -52, 8 people live on what the land and the herd give them.
And it is enough. Not just enough. They are content. I can see it in Seriko's eyes when he looks at his grandchildren. I can see it in Nedko's hands, which move without fatigue. I can see it in Cassava's silence, in which there is neither anxiety nor sorrow. The stove is burning down. Nedko tosses in the last pieces of birch. The fire flares up and dies down again. The shadows on the walls go still. The chum cools slowly. The hides hold heat like a thermos. Outside, the wind howls. It picked up toward nightfall and is now shaking the poles of the chum. But the chum stands. It has stood through 1,000 such winds, and it will stand through 1,000 more, because it was built by people who know the wind by name. Tomorrow the camp will be moving. The reindeer have eaten the lichen in this spot, and it is time to move on. 20 kilometers to the north. Nedko will take down the chum in 40 minutes. Those same 26 poles, 2 layers of nukes, the stove, the dishes, the hides, everything. She will load it all onto the sleds, and the camp will move across the tundra as it moved 100 years ago, and 200, and 500. I fall asleep to the howling of the wind and the smell of reindeer hides. My last thought before sleep. Tomorrow I have to help take down the chum. I will be useless. I will be in the way. I will mix up the poles and drop the nukes. And Serako will look at me with that smile of his, a smile only in his eyes. But I will try. Because these people let me into their circle. They fed me raw liver and salted tea. They covered me with hides. They showed me what life looks like without excess. And this is perhaps the most valuable thing I will bring home. Not photographs, not videos, not souvenirs, but the understanding that it is possible to live differently. That bedding can be made of reindeer hides, that lunch can be raw, that a home can be on runners, and that happiness can exist at -52. Smoke from the chum's chimney rises into the black sky and dissolves among the stars. Somewhere reindeer click their hooves. Somewhere a dog sighs at a child's feet. Somewhere Seriko quietly finishes his story. Silence. If you found it interesting to spend this day with me in the tundra, subscribe to the channel. Ahead there are many more places where people live in ways we have long forgotten. And perhaps in what has been forgotten, there is something worth remembering.